This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, nononsenseforex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 72 is brought to us by Bybit. Now, all you crypto heads are probably familiar with a layer 1 that just came out called Aptos and the token that goes with it. And you probably also know that that token did not do very well in its debut. Well, for what it's worth, and you certainly don't have to do this, but you always have the option, you can buy that token on Bybit on the spot market, and you can also trade it against USDT, which means you can go long or you can short Aptos for as long as you like. Multi-millions of dollars have been made shorting these things on the way down. But regardless, you will always have options like this because Bybit is great at coming out with these tokens as soon as possible. I get email notices every time they do. And as always, you can do this in a decentralized way. So click the link down below to find out more. We have a great promotion going on all through October. Get yourself off of centralized exchanges and get yourself started now. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I feel like we're at a very unique time in history. You know, even though things don't seem calm right now, to most people who are not involved in the financial space that don't really pay attention, things are rather calm. You know, even in Europe. I was just there. It's very la-di-da. But the chaos that is brewing underneath is like anything I've ever seen. I don't know about you. And for years, it was just talked about like, okay, if we keep doing this, it's going to come. Well, now it really seems like it's on our doorsteps, which means if you have not been taking action, you probably need to. I'd hate to see the percentage of people who listen to a podcast like this, and then when it's all said and done, took no action and did not get to participate in the things that most of us will get to participate in. One of which is the move in silver, which I think is inevitable. I always have. You know, it makes sense on so many levels. Really precious metals in general. You know, I've said it before on here. Everything Peter Schiff said was going to happen actually did happen, but he gets no credit for it because the price of gold did not go up with it. Now, there are reasons for that on the gold and silver side, but we'll talk mainly silver today because I think a lot of those reasons are slowly coming to an end. At least the data tells us this. But let's start by mentioning, and I don't know if you've been paying much attention to this, but a lot of the silver is going away, far more than it was before. And not just one little, Wall Street silver, let's all get together on Reddit and drain the COMEX type drain. This has been long and sustained, and this has gone on pretty much throughout the entire year of 2022. Now, if you go to a chart of the COMEX or the LBME, which is the two that everybody talks about, I'm not sure why it's always these two, but I'll mention that in a bit. But you can see if there has been silver being added to the COMEX or taken away. And ever since right about August of last year, it's been doing nothing but getting taken away. And then that clip magnified right around, I think, spring of this year. Every single month from that point on, obscene amounts of silver have been drained from this place with no real end in sight. And people who matter see things like this, and they want to get their silver out before it's too late. So this is one of the main reasons why this situation never gets better. So for all you beginners out there, this is what's called supply going down and demand going up. Now, the reason I think it's funny they always mention the COMEX and the LBMA is because that's not where most of the silver is. As far as silver you can actually trade and buy on an actual market, the vast majority of it is in the ETFs, which we have spoken about on this podcast. So think of your SLV, SIVR, PSLV. Those places have way more silver than the COMEX does. SLV alone probably beats the COMEX by a factor of 5, 6, maybe. So I think it's weird that people mention the COMEX all the time. I mean, that's where all the real dirty stuff goes on. So maybe that's why. But the ETFs have a lot more. But here's the thing. They're getting drained too. And also at a pretty major clip. Most of the people in the silver space are, the average age is probably 62 years old, and they all have this little old man joke how pretty soon silver is going to be called unobtainium and unaffordium. Well, the first part is starting to come to fruition pretty fast. If any of you guys ever watched the Liberty and Finance YouTube channel where they interview Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin it's not the largest gold dealer in the States, but it's a pretty big dealership. And Andy is the owner. And every week or so they have him on there, and he just looks like he's been through a war. And he's like, oh, man, I've been trying to get all these, these coins in and these bars, and, it's just not available, and I got to order it 6 months in advance, and oh, my God. It's the same thing every week, and we lap it right up. But this past week I was watching it, and he's like, yeah, it's gone. It's not like I'm not able to get it, but I'll just find a way to get it later. I have what I have. We'll still offer specials on it. But I'm not sure what we're going to do going forward. And this is in the U.S. Canadian market, too, which has the least hungry appetite for physical silver out of anybody in the world. Why? Because the United States dollar is doing really well. And the Canadian dollar is not doing terribly compared to a lot of the world. But Canadians can always get their hands on United States dollars pretty easily. So if you're looking at a chart of gold against the United States dollar, it's not that great. But if you're looking at it against any other of the 8 major currencies that we trade in the Forex world, it's doing really well. And it's a place where you want to be. And silver for the same reason. Remember, these things do move in tandem with each other for the most part, sometimes just at different periods of time. History would typically say gold moves first, but I'm kind of throwing out the history books for this particular example because times really are different with everything that's going on. So there is a heavy appetite around the world for silver in particular, and that leads me to my next point. Why can't we just refill the COMEX or refill the mints? What the heck is the problem? We're not in the pandemic anymore to where mines are shutting down. Well, it's because the East is buying up all of the silver. Remember a long time ago on No Nonsense Forex how I said I think the balance of power, financially at least, is shifting eastward. A lot of these countries have their own problems, but financially they are able to make much better decisions than people in the West are because they have the benefit of time. They can play the long game to where a lot of countries in the West cannot. So instead of having to look super short term and do really dumb shit just to get votes, and not even a true presidential election year, i.e. drain the strategic oil reserve down to almost nothing just to get gas prices down, which is clown shit on the highest level, countries in the East, for the most part, at least financially, get to see where the puck is going 5-10 years down the road and position themselves accordingly for that. And if you remember what I said before, too, how do you win a war without firing a shot? You destroy the other side's money. And you're like, well, won't that end up destroying your currency as well? Yeah, probably, but if you have enough gold and silver and things like that to back it up, you are going to survive where many countries will fall. Now, will this be enough to topple the United States dollar hegemony? Probably not, but it will put a pretty big dampener on it, and it will at least get those countries to break free from the stranglehold the United States dollar has had on most of the world for a very long time. And when these countries see a lot of this silver getting bought up, and they also see silver at low prices, this is an obvious signal for them to jump into and take what they can. And Russia has been doing this, and China has been doing this, and especially India has been doing this. If they don't buy enough silver already, Jesus. So far in 2022, they have bought 8,200 tons of silver. And if you extrapolate this out to 12 months, that means towards the end of the year, they should have bought right around 1,100 tons of silver, which is 1/3 of all global production for the year. India's like, yeah, we'll just take 1/3 of that. Thank you. So this stuff is becoming harder and harder to get your hands on. Now, despite all this, why has price been going down? Well, as some of you guys know, this is the great conundrum. Because everything in economics and mathematics points to the price of silver being much, much, much higher than it is right now. Well, we have these dirty bankers and dirty traders in the United States who are well connected politically and legally. who have gotten to put on giant short positions for a very long time in order to bring the price down and profit off of it, and then buy it at a much cheaper price when they feel like it, thus covering all of their shorts and positioning themselves for prosperity down the road. It should not be legal. They should all be in jail for a very long time. But the United States is a lot more corrupt than a lot of people would be led to believe it is. It always has been. And so these obvious atrocities are just allowed to happen. So this is not good for people who have been invested in silver for some time now. However, for new investors or for people who are looking to dollar cost average down, this is prime time, because it would appear like these bankers and these traders are done with their shorts, or are at least getting pretty close to being done. You can never time these things perfectly, but for the last few years, while everybody was yelling and screaming and trying to point these people out, they were just like, la, 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 we're just going to keep doing what we're doing because you can't stop us, eat a dick. And they were right. They absolutely got away with it. Now, who knows what will happen to them in the future, but for now, it looks like they're done, or they are coming to a close, which is, again, a very interesting time in history. So I would give you a link to this down below in the show notes, but since it changes every week, and I'm not sure when you're listening to this podcast, I don't want to do that. Just go to www.google.com, type in Silver COT report, and near the top of the list, you will find a place called Trading, STER.com. Use their COT report because they graph it out really nice. And then scroll to the bottom where the shorts are. Now, if you read my blog on Thursday, and let me tell you, there's a difference between the people who read the blog and the people who don't. We talked about an interview that went on with David Brady, and during that interview, he said how, for the first time in a very, very long time, the commercial longs have flipped the commercial shorts. Now, the commercial is, I'm doing air quotes, the smart money or the dirty money. And that's the money you want to keep an eye on because, like I said, they were short for the longest time, and then they finally flipped long. Well, recently they have flipped short again, but in a very minor way. And at least right now, as I'm looking at this COT report, it looks like they're about to, or at least on their way to, flipping long again. So whether they are currently long or short, they're not long or short by much, and that gap has closed a lot in the last couple of months. So when people say that these traders and bankers might be done shorting, I believe it. It looks like they very well could be. So the one thing that was preventing this slingshot from being let go looks like it's coming to an end, on top of the crazy supply shock we're currently having. This is the combination I've really been looking for. And in a lot of markets, combinations like this don't even exist. This is very special and unique to silver. So how can you play it? Well, we've talked about this already on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel to start, and then we have continued to talk about it on the podcast. But let's go over those really quickly. Now, as far as physical silver goes, you are now going to have a pretty hard time. That train has all but left the station. Dealers are talking about premiums of 80 to 100% on silver coins, premiums that have gone up about 4 to 5 times on bars. It's just rough, and that's if there's going to be any in the store to begin with. If you want to do it, by all means, go do it, but just understand it's a different environment than it was for the people who got on this earlier. Now, offshore, I think you can get much better deals. Let me take a look at mine real quick. I don't reveal for security reasons, the dealer I go with, and if just for what it's worth, because there's always one or two people that do this. If anybody wants to get cute and try to guess it down in the comments section, you are going to get deleted and blocked. We don't play games here. But if I look at it, you can get 55 cents over spot for 1,000 ounce bars, and for 100 ounce bars, it's about $2.40 over spot. Now, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I get it, but there's a large premium on that. But a place you can go to where you can actually have physical silver but not pay any premiums on it, hardly at all, is the ETF market, which we have gone over in length on this program. And again, not financial advice, don't do any of this, but the one ETF that we recommended on here, I'm putting that in air quotes because we don't officially recommend anything, but that is going to be ticker symbol PSLV. And then on the digital front, there are not very good options for silver like there are with gold. Probably, again, not official recommendations, but I keep going back to Uphold. They have a silver product on there. It works. Now, you could absolutely do worse with it, but just not too many options on the digital side right now. Now, as far as what I am doing, I always say the cheapest silver is in the ground. And a lot of my silver positions, because you guys know how long I've been in this, it was like episode 12 or 13 of the old Forex Q&A podcast when I really brought a lot of this to you. So a lot of silver positions that I have had hit my initial take profit and then come back and hit my break-even stop loss, leaving me with nothing but cash. But that's fine because now I have cash to deploy for later. The one position that did not do that is something we've talked about here as well, my ETF, ticker symbol SLVP, because of course, that's the silver miner ETF that I have. It is down, and I'm looking forward to dollar cost averaging it down further. And then after that, I'll be re-entering a lot of the positions I had before because I still really like those companies, and I will probably be adding one more if possible. Now, keep in mind, we talked about that. God, I keep referencing old podcast episodes, but we've talked before, too, how you don't need to get cute and try to shoot for the moon here because you're already going to reach the moon with higher market cap plays here. I just want to be a part of this thing. I want companies that are actually producing silver, not just looking for silver. I want companies that can survive an energy crisis. So I don't need to go looking for lottery plays. The same asymmetry you would have gotten with lottery plays a year ago is now available in the larger producers currently. There is no longer a need to screw around. Now, timing-wise, I'm going to do it like I always do it. I'm going to go to my charts and wait for my charts on the weekly to give me a signal. Am I going to get in at the absolute cheapest price by doing it this way? No, I never do. But again, I just want to participate. So many of you out there are waiting to try and catch the bottom, and price, just like we said in crypto, is going to run away from you, and you are going to end up with nothing. So getting in a bit early and then dollar cost averaging down, which I will allow myself to do. There are experts out there that are predicting gold to drop to 1,400, 1,500, and silver is obviously going to go with that. So on the off chance that they're right, I will allow a little bit of room to DCA down even further. But for me, as far as silver goes, it is officially time because of the combination of factors I have mentioned in this episode. Because I am taking the same approach as India, not the United States. I don't need to sit here and get in at the perfect time. I just need to get in and allow these situations to play out over the years. And to do it while the price of these metals are beaten down so much and have been for such a long time, it's going to seem crazy. Nobody's even talking about precious metals right now. Who's actually going out and buying precious metals right now? Well, it's not people who are crazy. It's entire countries who understand where the puck is going and individuals who are doing the same. Not crazy people, just early people.